I don't believe now there's much Nakaba can do to prolong kind of like larger series questions from being answered that we were presented. Like obviously more information on the Four Knights of the Apocalypse and how that's all going to work out in the large scale of the story. Because we don't know obviously the full details, but clearly Meliodas knows something that we just haven't been revealed to yet for either the readers or the main cast. And Lancelot seems to know. I'm guessing Tristan knows, and maybe even whoever the last knight is that Tristan went and got, we'll already know. And it'll just be one of those situations where, you know, they're going to explain because Percival is completely out of the loop, doesn't know what's going on. So, as it is, I will say I liked the chapter for the most part. I thought it wasn't a great chapter because it was mostly like Percival like skirmishing with, not too big threats of characters, but at least characters who are seemingly relevant in terms of like slight formidable. That's not a word. Formidable level. I was gonna use a word and I was like, I just realized like it's not a word. Kind of like how Hendrickson and people like Hauser and all them were in like the first part of Seven Deadly Sins, where it's like they clearly weren't, I would assume, up to stuff with the main character. I feel like it's safe to assume, you know, that for Percival, obviously Meliodas was stronger, but at the same time, it's like if he wanted to, I feel like he could just run over these guys, not like one shot them all, but pretty much just beat them without a ton of issue. Because these guys, like their powers are they're useful. It's not like they have bad abilities. I did really like Isolde's ability because when I first saw it, when I was like reading through the chapter, that's what I thought it did, and then I didn't see it explode. And I was like, oh well, okay, because I was like, oh well, maybe she's just hitting it and laying kind of like landmines. That was what made sense to me. Just looking at it, she's just smashing it. Magic goes into the ground, and then I assume, okay, will explode. That's pretty simple, but again, a good power. And then it did, and then shortly after it did in fact explode. Very happy. I like her character already. So right now she's got a good thumbs up opinion of her character for the most part. For me, she seems a little bit hot-headed and much of a loose cannon, but it's at least right now I would say like probably more of like inexperience in her age. Probably like a couple years down the line, she'll probably have it under control. I would hope. But Percival's doing fine against these guys because he's combating them. And again, he's not like he's just like overtaking them, but he doesn't really look like he's trying to fight. It looks more like he's just trying to get this all cleared up. He's like putting out, like just trying to like reason with them. At one point, the girl Solde goes and like swings her mace, and it gets blocked by one of Percival's little blobs. And we get a part beforehand where the one caster dude, he is. I gotta really look at something because I know obviously the girl she's using the flail. She's like their heavy attacker. You have the caster guy who I would assume he's the person who's doing the support. He's got like the little shadow ball. He's got the little spirit. I think it was. Let me double check. It might have been reversed. Maybe that was the other dude. Because the dagger guy or the short sword. Because I was wondering, this chef, what did he do? I don't think he used any abilities this one. I can't remember because I know the caster guy used a bunch, and then there's obviously the girl Isolde with her exploding mace. But yeah, I guess this guy didn't really do anything. I didn't really thought too much about it until like looking at it because I was like trying to think of what each of them did as I was going into the review, and I was like, I don't think he did anything, did he? But I really liked when we see the dude, like we see a little bit of his abilities because there's the whole part where it's okay. Well, Sylph is his familiar Sylph is like messing with Percival's breathing. And again, it makes sense for it to not be like a full, like, oh no, you can't breathe anymore versus like I thin the oxygen. Because characters like someone like Percival, who grew up on top of a mountain, is way more used to a lower supply of oxygen than most people. That's just one of those this is one of those shonen traits I always like, where it doesn't even apply always to the main character. It's just one of the things where because of a character's backstory, they have a specific resistance against X, Y, or Z. Where it's like something like this, where it's very specific. Another one, I remember is Mar, where the main character, he essentially got isekai'd. This was like years before isekais kind of became like a huge thing. This was like, I think like 2003 or something. But he gets brought into another world, but that world's gravity is way weaker. So he's like, his body is just stronger by default because it's used to a world with a much more, again, increased sense of gravity. Something like that. Okay, cool. That's one of those base things where it's like, yeah, I can understand that just by knowing the character's backstory. It's not something we have to really see him train because it's something that's like an environmental effect. It's something that they would have just by just by really going about their normal business in the space that they're at. So Percival having that I thought was really cool, but and then I like seeing the guy's familiar who's messing with his ability to breathe. And I mean, this guy's neat. I mean, he's a good little support, but I feel like if you were up against this guy, you literally just have to nuke this area and this team is done. Not like nuke, but if you just blast there, these guys are like the sword guy. We haven't seen him do anything. The spellcaster guy, he doesn't seem like he can fight. He seems more of just like a plain spellcaster. And then I like Isolde, but her fighting style is very regular, and which is fine because again, she seems very young. It's not like she's a big deal character right now. So like her just having kind of like a base kind of way to attack, I'm fine with. Again, that makes sense. But I would say like these guys aren't too crazy opponents. I do feel like if Percival really wanted to, I don't really see what's stopping him from just like making a giant magic hand and smashing them. And oh yeah, the one thing I want to mention, because I don't want to skip over that before I go to the next thing, was when Percival like made the little chibi Percival, the dude's familiar left. Like it just straight said no and like went out of there. So clearly there's some form of extra mystery to Percival's like chibis. Maybe it has something to do with the nature of the magic or something, or maybe like this guy is aware of like other familiars. Would this count as a familiar with like the chibi Percivals? Or is it because like maybe it's because like it can absorb magic and this guy like to him like this would be like getting eaten or something. Again, I don't know. It's a really interesting like little extra plot point that came about this chapter. I really like that. It was also really funny when the amount of Isolde's magic got taken by the little Percival head, and then it was like tracking her and go after her and then explodes. Like they have like a really good level of utility and skill. Like to be perfectly honest, when it comes to Percival's moveset, I honestly haven't really had much of an issue with it, because like the only thing that's kind of been like a little bit big was like a little bit too big, but it, again, made sense. It's like the first year of the series, the main character was specifically power level wise because he was just beating characters, but also like it's not like those characters were all big deals as far as we know. They were just kind of, you know, strong chaos knights to a degree, nothing too crazy, nothing to really kind of like hold over. So it's like, okay, yeah, sure. And like it has been very clearly emphasized in parts where Percival has a lot of latent potential, but he's just so inexperienced and he's so childish and stuff that it's hampering his potential. Because like if Percival fought way more seriously, he got some skill under his belt, he would be doing so much better because of, again, the flexibility of his magic. Obviously he's got a lot to use. Like, you know, he's got his own main character stuff. He just has something that is dragging him down right now. But the only thing really about his moveset I'm not a huge fan of is his healing, because I'm not a fan of when characters, like for the most part, that are healers outside of healings, unless it's specific. On a main character, though, is like kind of risky, because now one is Percival's healing, so that means that his healing should improve throughout the series. And it's like the main guy having the healing ability just means that like any situation where he's hurt or other people are hurt, he has the potential to heal them. I really appreciate it more when it's like healing is like set off on another character, just because it's a whole different feeling when the healer is not around versus like when the healer is on standby, and it's like the main character is pretty much always going to be on standby. So I don't know, not a crazy thing. I'm fine with some battle healers. It just depends. I think really to me it just depends on like the character's role, and I think outside of main character, it doesn't bother me too much. Because like even like something like Bleach, like Orihime was, you know, her ability to, you know, quote unquote heal. It's a different power, but pretty much healing. It's, you know, she's the female lead and she has a crazy healing thing, but obviously she's not a fighter for the most part. So it's like she's not going to be in a lot of battles. It's a completely different vibe. That's just something that I just wanted to bring up, because it's something about Percival's moveset that has, and it doesn't hamper it doesn't like dampen the character at all. It doesn't hamper him down for me. I don't dislike Percival because he can heal. I just wish he didn't heal and maybe had something else, another utility thing. Because like my favorite thing probably about his moveset right now are like the stuff like this, like little chibi Percivals that he can do neat things with, because it has a large level of flexibility. He's able to do a lot of easy to understand but very flexible things. Being able to absorb, again, an explosion ability, send it back at him this easily is good. It's a really good ability, even though it's like you can easily like maybe an explosion is too powerful to absorb and it's dangerous, but it's like Yeah, but I mean, you can kind of look at a similar kind of comparison for other characters' abilities in situations where they go up against somebody way more powerful than them. But that's like its own thing. Versus like this is like I would imagine in most fights he'd be able to do something like this to his opponents, which again I really enjoyed. There is a part where it's like he gets like a black bubble around his head. I'm guessing that's the dude, the swords guy, because I don't think we get anything confirming it, but he's like smirking. And maybe this is what I forgot, because like there's nothing that says like this is his ability. There's just like he's just kind of does like a chuckle, and then he's like, you're screwed now kind of thing. Whereas Percival seems for the most part fine, but it just looks like a confusing attack where it's like I said, these guys don't have anything really though to defend against a large, just like an AoE attack. If you just like a Percival just pretty much aimed at the ground, blasted, and did like some like 40 feet of like blast area, he probably would have hit all these guys and beaten them. But then a big barrel comes by again. Donnie coming in clutch. I really did. That's probably one of my favorite parts of the chapter because I thought about it and I really like this idea of like they're kind of coming in to try and help Percival, and Donnie, because of his new powers, just he's like, oh, we need to do something. Donnie like just sees something, reaches for it with his telekinesis and just chucks it. I thought that was really cool. I just really like that idea visually because it's such a cool upgrade for Donnie in a simplistic way that it just adds a really neat extra to this scenario. But after that point, the 3 Holy Knight members are going up against the main character group, and I mean this wasn't a good one for them because like Nasians is the only one out of that 3 that I would be like in a fight. I'd say like yeah, he's got a good chance because Annie and Donnie again are strong, but like they won their last fights with characters who they had the ability advantage. They factually had the ability advantage. Though Annie didn't have the full one, but it's like they helped disarm her staff, and then when it came down to like the extra abilities, she ended up obviously countering. And then same thing with Donnie and was it Doranok? I think it was Burgi and Doranok, I think. But when you look at them outside of that, it's not like they're that crazy of fighters at the moment. Donnie's got some potential. Annie, we don't know what her, again, I would assume she's gonna have an offensive magic. Right now she's got her whole truth ability. I didn't really see her winning. Them winning this fight in general, like the 3 of them. And on top of that, we already knew these guys. This like the Casper guy had some hacks, so it's like, what were these guys going to really do in this scenario? And they didn't grow up on God's finger, or had any training somewhere, so super thin oxygen to them is just pretty much the same as no breathing. And then you also have Isolde coming in and just start smashing them up with her flail. Man, I wish Percival could see this because I feel like Percival would get super pissed off. And I'm wondering if the reason that Percival's face was covered was at the part where he speaks like demonic, because does that mean that his like something happened to his face? Is he transformed? Because there's a part that's really interesting to me, and also there's this part at the very end I want to talk about. When he says it, you see around his cloak, like right around his neck, there's some of that like black misty stuff spreading. Because throughout the earlier parts of the chapter, it's like a perfect sphere. It's just like a bubble. It's like it's not like a shady, misty ball. It's just black ball on top of this guy's head, solid black ball. And then there's like something going on with it. And then the next page, and because at first I was like, okay, well maybe this is just an unfinished page. I don't think so. It might just be an unfinished page, but I feel like it was intentional. But actually, no. I'm gonna pull back on that because I was gonna say that maybe it could be because there's a lot of stuff in this chapter actually not looking at it that you could maybe make that case, because some of these last ones, like Isolde attacking the 3 members of the main cast, there's no backgrounds, and then there's a panel, like the next page is no backgrounds, and then there's a part where Percival and them are on the ground and Percival's orb thing is not colored at all. So I'm guessing that these like last chunks were just maybe not finished, and like Nakaba's just like, you put it out, finish it in the volume, which is fine. But I don't think that the ball head thing, the sphere thing, is a coincidence. I was actually really hoping that this wasn't a unfinished thing, because I only noticed it at first in the page right before the last one. I was like, well, maybe that's an effect. Like it's, whatever the effect is, it makes them look like unfinished art. I thought maybe that would be a really cool visual. Something just to kind of like add an extra spice. But I think it is just maybe some unfinished art. Maybe he didn't get to the last couple chunks in time. And there's the part where the black-haired guy's hair isn't colored in. That one I'm a little confused about. I feel like you could MS Paint fill that one, but it doesn't matter to me. Hopefully Nakaba's doing well. But then we see Tristan at the end. And this was kind of, again, the thing that made me kind of think like that they were intentional, because like this page is done good in terms, well, done fully, rather. It's the correct way to say it. It's fully finished. And that's probably because it's the last page and it's the full page, so we probably finished this one first. So we're seeing Tristan. I will say, I got to go find my tweet from I don't know if it's a tweet or if I posted somewhere a couple years ago, and people were making fun of Tristan's design. Willingly so. I thought his design looked goofy, but I did say that if he looked cooler when he got older, people who insulted him better not be jumping on the bandwagon. Because I believed that his design as a kid was probably something that Nakaba just kind of did real fast in, like, again, a very standard way, because he didn't get the one shot that Lancelot did, where Lancelot got his one shots, like little side stuff where it shows him getting, what was it, taken to the spirit world and the animal spirit. I have to go back and look the exact wording, but like Tristan has something coming up with like a weird CGI movie, but I don't know about that one. Regardless of which, I'm guessing that Nakaba didn't really plan on using him in that previous design much, so he kind of just was like, well, I have an idea for what it was going to be like, and it's one of those things, because he was little, maybe it looked goofier. I don't really know, obviously, 100%. I figured, though, that his hairstyle as a kid would look better older. That was just something I figured would be the for sure case. He looks all right so far. His hair doesn't look as goofy, obviously, but we'll see how things are going. I am curious to know about his eyes. This is the last thing I want to mention, because I know his eyes are two different colors, and this is obviously a black and white manga. But it's like usually when when manga have stuff like that, they shade one a little bit different, just because then you can tell differently which one's supposed to be which one. Maybe you can't really tell because of this panel. And maybe it'll just be like something we'll see next time. You can have like light reflect on or something. Or maybe it's something he only happens when he uses abilities. And he has like regular eyes in base at this point. I don't know. Either way, comment below. This is a fun chapter. I like this. This is a little bit longer review than I thought, just because I had more that I wanted to kind of go over. But anyway, other than that, comment below. Thumbs up the video, like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. From that, appreciate it. Subscribe, and thank you all for listening. Bye.